All right, today is Friday, September 7, 2018. So code freeze was earlier this week for Kubernetes. I haven't been able to attend the last couple meetings, but I've been trying to keep track of things offline. So let's run through the task list and get an idea of what made it, what didn't make it, where we are, and what needs to be done for the rest of this remaining rest of this quarter. So first up, we had Cubelet device registration mechanism moving to beta. This had a handful of PRs that were going to go in. And as far as I can tell, I checked yesterday, both of them made it in. Is that correct, Vlad?
Yes, they were,
Awesome.
or at least the last one. Well, it looked like it did. Last I checked, it was in the submit queue, so
Yeah,
it
I think
looked
that
like
was
it did
this
get
one right
merged.
here. So I checked
Yeah,
that
the
one.
one you just looked at.
It's been merged. So this is the change to the registration lifecycle and adding a hook for unregistration. This basically process. And so when the socket is deleted, it calls deregister. Deregister is not currently implemented by CSI, so we're going to have to come back and implement that. But it's good that that
That's
went in.
correct.
So we can go ahead and mark that as green. Get rid of that. Oops. Chang, do you have any, do you know what these comments are about? Are they valid? Looks like Chang's not on the call. Follow up with him offline. Okay. So that's looking good. Next up, we need end-to-end CSI tests for this. Actually, interesting thing was when the feature was flipped to beta, it was failing, so they actually had to go ahead and modify the existing tests to handle this, and they already did that. So the new path is already being tested. So the current CSI end-to-end test is now testing this path.
Neat.
I think we're good there.
Okay.
And so the remainder here is documentation. This is the whole proxy. Oh, actually, there's two different sets of documentation. There's the CSI documentation for the plugin watcher, which I forget what exactly the ask here was. I think Renaud was asking for some documentation here. And then in addition to that, on our side, we need to make sure that the driver registrar is properly documented, because that the flags there are kind of funky. If you don't get them right, it gets kind of confusing. And so that we can do basically this month. And then trying to push CSI spec to pick up this registration logic, we can also do this month. So overall, I'd say this is in a good spot. Sorry, go ahead, Vlad.
Oh, I was going to confirm that you still wanted to pursue that as far as the actual.
Yeah, I mean, might as well.
Okay. So which would mean that we would have to not be, we wouldn't be using the Cubelet plugin.
What do you mean, the Cubelet plugin? I mean, we would still use the Cubelet plugin registration mechanism as it is today. The only difference is that instead of having a separate driver registrar component that's doing the...
oh, I see. That's right.
We would basically just have one driver that implements that same logic. So it would just simplify things a little bit. If we could just inject all that like gRPC logic we have for the handshake into CSI, the CSI driver could just implement that logic, and we don't need to have a sidecar that implements it and then, you know, have a second socket that it pass back to. So it's just a nice little nice-to-have thing. If we can get it done, it would simplify things. If not, it's not a huge deal.
Okay.
Cool. CSI Cluster Registry got in as alpha, so this is good. And then the node info object also got in as alpha. Passing workload information to CSI was also merged, so pretty happy about that. I was talking to KFox. There's someone who's very interested in writing drivers, local ephemeral drivers. And he was asking for if we could have a volume ID in there as well, in addition to the pod information. He wanted volume.name, the pod volume name. And I spoke to him offline, and we discussed and decided that the volume ID is already included in the path that's passed in on node publish. So that should be sufficient for him to do what he needs to do. So this is...
So this is something other than the handle?
It's different from the handle. So it's the name of the volume as specified in the pod. So in the pod, when you define a volume, you can give it.
Okay, in the pod itself.
And so he wanted to be able to get that name to be able to differentiate. So his idea is basically writing an empty dir using CSI. And so if you have two different references to an empty dir in the same pod, there should be two different empty dirs. How does he differentiate between them? And what I told him was that the path would be different for both of them, so he wouldn't actually need the volume ID. Just look at the path, and that's be okay for him. So this is good. It helps with the local ephemeral volume use case. And then we have do not require attach operation. Both of these got in. Both of them are alpha. So we're good there. Inline volume support, there was a valiant effort from Vlad to get this in over the last few days. And we talked about potentially doing an exception for it. Vlad, do you want to talk about that? Or
yeah, I checked with Tim, and apparently at the end of the day, it comes down to the SIG lead, whether or not the decision to push for an exception. And the fact that whatever the changes are, it will not affect anything else. So in the next few days, depending on how far I get with the second part of the PR, which is the actual implementation, if I feel that we can push for it, I'll give it a shot and push for it and see how far we can get with it.
Okay.
But the first PR is ready. Tim has reviewed it. Jordan has reviewed it. So when you have time, you can take a look at it as well.
Okay. First API ready. Second implementation PR in WIP. And we'll decide on exception by Monday.
Yeah.
Possible? Okay. Only thing is, I think the exception process has a deadline, and I want to make sure we don't miss that deadline if we're actually going to file for an exception. So the sooner that we know, the better.
Yeah, the burn down is the first burn down was I think today, so we missed that one.
Okay.
But yeah, it was today.
Okay.
But like I said, I checked with Tim. If we choose to push for it, we can.
Okay. So maybe we should go ahead and file for that exception, and then decide whether we're going to get it in or not.
Okay. I'll do that.
I don't want them to I don't want you to do all this work and then we go and apply for the exception and they say we missed the dates.
Well, yeah, I mean the work has to be done anyway, so yeah, if we get it done, it's good. If it get in, it's good. If not, then
Okay.
I'm okay with it too.
All
But
right.
I'll definitely try
I'll
to
leave
push
it up to
for it.
you. If you want to do it, let me know. Otherwise, we can hold off till Monday and then do it on Monday.
Okay.
All right. Cool. Thanks, man. So good thing is that even if inline volume support doesn't get in, people who were blocked on writing ephemeral volumes should still be able to create them this quarter without this work. It'll just be a little bit uglier to use because the skip attach and the workload information is now there. They can write a driver that consumes that and sets up the skip attach. And then instead of specifying the volume in line, they just have to create a create a PV/PVC this quarter to use it, which is a little bit ugly, but we'll clean that up whenever inline volume support goes in. And maybe possibly we can get inline volume support in this quarter too, but it's looking tight. Last one was Kubernetes to CSI topology support. Chang, do you want to give a status update on this?
Sure. So basically, one of the major concerns we had around this PR is the fact that Cubelet self-labels for topology. And so when one of the nodes gets compromised, it could potentially affect how workloads are scheduled by the scheduler. And so to get around, so there is a proposal from the security groups to augment node restriction so that admins can restrict certain label prefixes that are allowed to be modified. That's in design phase right now. And so in the meantime, what we decided upon is basically to have an alpha gate for all of these followers to feature. And in addition, we basically decided to, so like with all the features going in this quarter, we have a couple of alpha gates. Each of Jan's PRs had its own. CRD auto install had its own. And originally the registration logic was under the plugin watcher alpha gate. What we decided is to simplify all that and group all of those things under two different alpha gates, divided by the API objects they need, basically. One is the CSI node info flag, so that'll include the installation of that CRD and the Cubelet logic, but not including the node ID annotation logic. And the other flag gate will be for CSI driver registry. That'll include Jan's work on passing workload information and skip attach and stuff. And the last thing is we basically have an exception for this PR for the Cubelet registration PR. We have 5 days. I'm not sure if that counts weekends or not, but I'm looking to basically get that PR approved today. And that's it.
Awesome. Thanks a lot, Cheng. This was a huge effort. Turned out to be fairly complicated and had a lot of weird dependencies. So
yeah,
I'm glad all of that got cleaned up, and it's looking good. If we can get, I think, LGTM by Jordan, we should be good. I LGTM'd it last night.
Okay, cool. Yeah, Jordan has some a few more comments, but they don't seem to be blocking. So
awesome. All right, thank you for driving that.
Yep.
And then, of course, mount namespace propagation got in. So overall, I think we're looking fairly healthy for the items that we really wanted to get in this quarter. And we're almost there with the exceptions that we have. So now it's time to start thinking about post code freeze before the next quarter starts. 3 big things. 1 is updating the sidecars. 2 is documentation, and then 3 is testing. So for all the features that you're delivering this quarter up till code freeze, you've been focused on what are the things that I need to get into the core for Kubernetes. and we've kind of been ignoring the sidecar containers and the changes that we need to make there. So take some time to reflect today on what those changes are. And then on Monday, we can discuss those and add them to this list for the remaining items for 1.12. And in fact, I'll just add a list here. And you can go ahead and add items here. So Q3 post code freeze tasks. And then can actually track this here. So this is done. The tests are done. Documentation needs to be done. So that, we need more documentation there, then push. So these are all post tasks. So we can go ahead and mark this item as green. And we can remove the documentation aspect of this. Mark that as green. And then remove these additional tasks from here. And then similarly, we'll just clean that up. So yeah, go ahead and do that today if you get the chance. And then we can talk about those items on Monday. And then any miscellaneous updates that we want to talk about?
Just maybe on CSI tests, make sure we're still okay on that. I've been reviewing and stuff, but if you have any issues or anything, just let me know. I'm trying to get back into things more. So
Cool. So let me take a note up here. Release.
I would say that we're having some discussions on CSI tests, and I'm trying to make sure that we don't add anything to CSI tests that is our assumption. I'll give you one example of just one test, is that we're testing for Unicode style strings, but there's no specification in CSI itself that says you must have Unicode style strings support. So what I asked is the person who wrote that was Ben, if they could go back to the CSI spec, make sure that's in there, and then I would love to put it in, right? But we need to, we can't put I would like to reduce the number of assumptions that we put in CSI tests that are not specifically done in the spec. Make sense?
Yep. In fact, this reminds me, somebody reached out to me about their driver only accepts, I believe it was volume handles that are alphanumeric, and the CSI test generates a handle that is both alphanumeric and includes characters, alphabetical characters, and that causes their code to choke. And they had a proposal out, an issue in the CSI test repo to somehow allow the driver to control what type of handle would be passed in by CSI test.
Interesting.
And so that might be worth taking a look at if you could pull up the, let me see if I could pull it up.
Yeah, again, like if I don't mind changing the entire test to use their model, as long as it doesn't break anything.
Yeah, I think it was generated for interface. I think it was this one. Yeah, actually, so I followed up offline with these guys, and it sounds like they've got a solid use case here that we need to think through. So.
Yeah, as long as it applies to the spec, I don't mind. Like I don't mind even changing everything to that. Make sense?
Yep.
Or even having a switch saying use only alphanumeric things. So that's fine too.
Yeah,
what
I mean,
what I don't want are assumptions. That's
exactly
what I don't want.
All right, cool. So that seems reasonable. And then the exception process is documented there for anyone that's interested. Anything else?
I think we're doing well.
So we'll decide when to cut the version on Monday. Is that
I think we're still too early for that still, right?
Cut the sidecar containers, or?
Yeah, so basically we need to build some new images, and also because I think they already cut release 1.12, so we need to update the vendor files, right? You need to refer to a specific version. So right now, some of those are referring to the master right now.
Go ahead and update the sidecar containers to point to the alpha release of 1.12, which got
alpha release. Okay.
Was it beta or alpha that was cut, the latest one?
I didn't see a beta. Maybe I'll check again. I see there's a release 1.12. Do we usually not using that? I see it. I see something just called release dash 1.12 or something. I don't know if we're supposed to use that.
This guy right here, V112 beta 1.
Okay, 3 days ago. Okay, so that should have the latest. Okay,
so we can try that, and then every time there's a new release, just pick it up until we get to 1.12.0, the official release.
Okay.
So if you need something, go ahead and update this, and then we can cut our containers, I believe, probably shortly. So I'm trying to decide whether we should do it before the release or after the release, the Kubernetes release. And I think
we can cut a branch at any point, really. It's just the management of all these branches for so many repos, right?
Yeah.
So the longer we hold out, the easier will be on those who cut it.
Yeah.
So myself and I think who did it last time? David. So it's just time consuming. That's all it is.
Yep. So let's do it closer to 1.12 official release, possibly shortly after. That way we can update the dependency to pick up the official 1.12 and then cut the sidecar containers.
Yeah. And also make it easier for people to develop, because they would have to make 2 patches, one for master, and then they have to patch it again on the branch.
And then in the meantime, or until 1.12 is cut, feel free to update dependencies to point to this guy.
Actually, that reminds me, with the CNCF owning the repo now, do we have to follow some rules or something?
No, we still own the release process and everything that goes on within the repo.
Okay. All right.
We just need to make sane decisions that don't blow anybody else up.
Okay.
And that's going to become more and more important as we approach GA.
Yeah, we also need to make sure we have release notes and documentation, and everything's tracked.
Ensure there are release notes on the official releases.
We also need to make sure that the E2E test in Kubernetes is pulling our released tagged containers for the external containers when that happens. So very close. So that means that we need to have, before release of 1.12, we need to have our containers set. So it could be that we need our release done before. You see what I mean?
Yeah. It's a little bit of a chicken and egg problem, because the sidecars kind of depend. Actually, they shouldn't depend directly on the core Kubernetes. Most of that code is external to Kubernetes. So yeah, I can buy that. And possibly shortly before.
Yeah.
Should we always just have the E2E test point to the latest for these external repos, so that we don't have to change them every single time we release?
You mean like point ahead?
Point to the latest image push to Quay.
But the thing is, if we do that, then like 1.11 will bring in latest containers.
Yeah, so if you have
okay,
multiple
okay.
versions, yeah, it could break things.
Got it.
So now we can still do bug fixes in this Kubernetes CSI repos, right? Until we cut the release. Right?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
You can continue to make fixes, and then you should be good. Xing, I want to apologize. I didn't get a chance to look at your.
No problem. That was merged. So.
Okay, awesome. Are you blocked on anything right now?
No, right now. So everything's merged. Right now we just still have a few bug fixes we want to get merged. Probably because, yeah, if either Jing or me make a fix, we still need you to review it.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So,
and what happened to the entry changes? Were we able to get everything in on that side?
Yeah, the entry changes are in. That's just the data source API.
Yep. Awesome. Glad to hear.
Because after that, it's just that PR on external provision of that one that was merged.
If you can work with Jing to put together a blog post, that would be excellent. I think it's very good to try to publicize this snapshots API, that it's now officially alpha, and here's how you use it, and all that kind of stuff. Take a look at the CSI blog posts that we've had. There's been a couple of them, one for alpha and one for beta.
Okay.
And you can follow a similar model. Basically start with what the feature is, why it's important, why it's going into Kubernetes, how are you going to use it, and anything that's important for an end user to know.
Sure. We do have a doc PR. Not the blog yet. This is just it's down. It's actually in this doc down there.
Okay.
So there is a PR that is entry that's part of the website. Please.
Yes, I think I saw that PR.
Okay.
I was looking at it yesterday. Luis, could you take a look at the docs PRs that are coming in?
I will take a look into this afternoon.
Cool.
And there is another PR which is in the Kubernetes CSI docs. That one we will need to wait until we have the image. Right now it's work in progress.
Okay.
Jing, your PR is just work in progress.
No, the other one is not. So the one under website, that's not a work in progress, because that one today is the deadline for that to be ready.
Talking about the internal, the Kubernetes website. Got it.
Yeah, we have two. Right now we have two doc PRs.
Got it.
One,
if you send me a link to that, I can review it for you.
Okay. Yeah, the other one is our Kubernetes CSI docs. That one I marked it work in progress because the images right now I don't have an official image to reference right now.
Got it.
Yeah, but you can. Maybe I'll send that one to you. You can take a look and see what else we need to add.
Okay.
Yeah, because the rest of it is ready. It's just the image needs to be official one.
Cool.
But okay.
So I'll add this as one of the post code freeze items that we're tracking. So you have Kubernetes website documentation. Status PR is out. Kubernetes CSI documentation. Status is work in progress, and blog post, which doesn't have a status yet. Think of the blog post as a way to publicly announce to the world, hey, Kubernetes now has snapshots. So.
Yeah, sure. I was actually thinking about that. I thought, well, I will work with Jing on that.
So I don't have it for another 13 minutes.
Okay.
Just
actually, I'll help out.
You sure?
Thank you.
Getting kicked out.
Yeah, I don't know why the calendar. I didn't check, and I thought it was always doing.
No worries.
By the hour and 30 minutes.
So I think that's all that I have today. Anything else anybody wants to talk about?
No, I think we're good.
I do have a question, but I'll ping you on Slack.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you, everyone. This was a lot of work that went in this quarter. I'm pretty happy with how much work was completed, and let's get across the finish line strong. There's still a lot of work remaining to be left, and then let's drive towards a to a GA to a stable release for CSI in Q4.
All right. Thanks, guys.
All right.
Thank you.
Take care.
Bye.
All right.
Thank you.
Have a good weekend. Bye.
Bye.